He built previously an FX venue called Fast Match, which is still the fastest FX venue in the world, and that was sold to Euronext for $180 million. He previously was the deputy CTO at Credit Suisse, where he built a framework called AES and among many products, a dark pool called Crossfinder. I mean, yes, I think the big thing though is the thing with the market structure bill is it changes the game overnight because it gives a regulatory path for existing institutions to come in and understand exactly what they're getting involved in and which regulator they're getting involved with. I think what we'll see with market structure bill is before it's even passed, with most of these bills, we saw it with the stablecoin. With most of these bills, you start to realize there's chatter and we understand the bill is getting passed before it gets passed, maybe days to a week or 2 weeks. I think the second there's chatter that this bill is going to finally get passed, you're going to see M&A skyrocket. I think you're going to see traditional players on Wall Street, exchanges as one example, banks as another example, among others, buy their way into the space very, very quickly.
Alrighty, everybody, what is going on? Welcome back to another CYPRX video banger. In today's video, as you all heard that gentleman right there, that was Brandon M., the CEO of Crossover Markets, which is a digital asset trading technology firm focused on meeting the uniquely liquidity requirements of institutions in the cryptocurrency ecosystem. He mentioned dark pools. He also mentioned that the institutional floodgates are set to unlock once there is regulatory clarity. Shout out to Thinking Crypto and Tony Edwards for that interview right there that we utilized in the beginning of today's video breakdown. So in light of a recent announcement, 5 XRP ETFs listed on the DTCC's XRP touching $10 soon. We are going to humble everybody utilizing our institutionalized algorithms here at CYPRX to give you guys accurate and updated analysis. That is where I'm going to start to streamline a lot of the content on the CYPRX YouTube. I'm not going to come out with XRP analysis every single day, but you can expect at least 1 to 2 updates on a weekly basis from the CYPRX YouTube moving forward, utilizing our institutional dark pool information. As you guys heard, the gentleman Brandon confirmed that dark pools do exist.
Where he built a framework called AES and among many products, a dark pool called Crossfinder.
They're relatively unnoticed and unheard of amongst the majority of retail investors, but we here in the CYPRX community are the only retail community with access to said information. So we'll get into that in today's video. We're going to do a thorough updated analysis, take a look at some accurate price levels to be paying attention to, both bullish and bearish, and we're going to give you guys a thorough breakdown on the fundamental landscape. First, shout out to the CYPRX research team for annotating this. This is huge. Breaking: the XRP ETFs are now listed on the DTCC's platform. Bitwise, Franklin Templeton, 21 shares, Canary Capital, and CoinShares, all preparing for institutional access to XRP exposure. Just like that gentleman said, once these institutions get a wind that we're going to see the market structure bill come into fruition, we're going to start to see capital inflows. And we could possibly be on the brink of that. Mind you, again, the government is currently shut down. But recently, we've seen headlines stating that the government could possibly reopen, which would obviously, of course, inevitably lead to continued crypto regulation announcements. And so here you can see those XRP ETFs listed, which I just think is absolutely phenomenal, but we cannot get ahead of ourselves yet. We all understand the bullish Moonboy price predictions are going to start to hit the limelight. But again, we need to humble ourselves, and we are going to help to do that service here at CYPRX and give you guys accurate analysis. So I will start off with the analysis first, just so that way I don't bore you guys to death with the fundamental backdrop. We'll go over the technical analysis. I'll share with you guys the institutional deltas and dark pools that we have access to inside our private CYPRX community. And then we will head over to our private CYPRX community report from yesterday and talk about the fundamental landscape that we need to see a continued risk on sentiment this week and moving forward into the remainder of November. So starting here with this post, just so that way you guys really truly understand the breadth and the depth of what we have access to in this community and how accurate these levels are. This is what real institutional precision looks like. While the rest of retail is chasing indicators and YouTube hype, CYPRX is running institutional software that displays dark pools, delta zones, and volume data straight from the source. These aren't lagging indicators. They're real institutional levels updated days in advance for our community members. You can literally see where the big orders sit before they even move price. The screenshots below timestamps to show you these levels are all called out in advance inside our private CyberX community. Targets hit. Our algorithms can track futures, forex, commodities, and crypto with precision. This is why we say CyPRX isn't a trading group, it's a movement. We're building the most skilled and informed retail traders on the planet by giving them access to the same level of information institutions trade on. If you're tired of guessing based on YouTube price predictions and tired of emotional trading and ready to learn how real market structure works, this is your call. Join the community, learn the system, institutional data, institutional precision, no more retail garbage. How many of you guys are tired of the hopium, the hype, the $1,000 price predictions that never get met every single month after month after month? Well, there is a reason for that, ladies and gentlemen. It is because of dark pools. It is because of institutional deltas. It is because of volume in the market. All of these things contribute to price fluctuations on a trading basis. And here in this community, we have access to this. So just to show you guys the timestamps and then go over the updated analysis, both bullish and bearish targets, I'm paying very close attention to. This is just going to be a very brief overview. You can see the timestamp here, November 2nd. Actually, as a matter of fact, I will go over into the Discord to show you guys. All right. So our institutional scalper, if we head back, this is our XRP analysis section in the Discord. Mind you, you guys have access to as private monthly members. You get access to all the institutional updates on any currency pair that you want, futures, commodities, forex, and crypto. A lot of our participants in the private community, day trade or invest in XRP. So this is one of the most heavily watched channels in the CyPRX Discord. But here you can see November 2nd, 2025. The timestamp reads Sunday, November 2nd, at 9:13 p.m. Our institutional scalper gave us some updated buy volume areas of interest utilizing our software at $2.21 and $2.06 on XRP as an area of interest where XRP could dump down into and we could start to see buyer strength from. Well, if we come over here to the trading view charts, you can see that to the freaking T, guys and gals, you cannot even make this up. As a matter of fact, let's just go back real fast. Look at the precision. $2.666. Look at the precision here. We come over to the XRP analysis charts and look at where this wick on XRP dipped down into 2.0666 to the freaking T. Buy volume came back into the market and buyers started to push price back to the upside. So just so you guys can see how accurate these levels are today, as of time of recording, is 8 days later, November 10th. We had this information days in advance on the 2nd before these levels were even hit. So again, if you guys want access to this information on an updated basis, because now if we scroll down, not only do we have updated price information, but we also have updated delta zones for you guys to be paying attention to. You guys can always head over to CYPRXtrading.com and you can tap in with us. These are updated on a daily basis on any asset class or trading pair that you guys want, that our algorithms can pull liquidity volume information from. So with that being said, let's head over to the updated screenshots. You guys can see here, we have some updated deltas coming in at about $2.63, where we have a sell dark pool. Above that, the next sell dark pool comes in at about $3.11. To the downside, if we did see a sour in the current market sentiment, meaning we saw a risk off mode, safe haven demand increase, and we saw maybe possibly fears of a recession. We saw data that pushed back on rate cut projections, so on and so forth. We'll get into that in the fundamental backdrop. We have some buy dark pools resting at $1.90 and $1.56 to be attentive to. Now, looking at the order flow and the volume, I just want to paint a very clear picture on some price levels that are on our radar to the upside that we need to break above in order to see higher prices. Now, mind you, on XRP, my higher price targets for the time being, because we have immediate resting dark pool sitting at $4.44. And we also have some immediate resting dark pools sitting at $5.17. Those are going to be my immediate take profit targets for some intraday price swings on XRP if we do start to see some euphoria build back into the market and these levels broken. So right now, on the order flow charts, we have a $2.61 hurdle that we need to overcome in order to see any higher prices. Above $2.61, we have $2.83 as our next immediate hurdle, where we have a trapped buyer resting at a high where we would need to see bullish price action above, turn this into support, and start to see aggressive buyers throwing up buy volume, pushing price higher. We'll get into that in just 1 second. So coming over here to the charts, utilizing again the information that I just shared with you guys, $2.61 is our first hurdle. So if we can see this week, again, once we get into the fundamental backdrop, a risk on market mood, we can see buyers aggressively push through this sell dark pool that's currently resting at about $2.61. We can see them turn this into support, throw up a passive wall of buy volume and trap sellers at lows, and continue to aggressively push price higher, then $2.83 is our next immediate upside target. Once we get to $2.83, same thing at 261, we want to see buyers turn this into support. That means we need to see buyers trap sellers at lows, become aggressive, and push price higher, breaking above into higher territory above the $2.83 level. If we can see that, then that will open the door for a possible recovery up into the mid $3 range. Now, again, if at any point in time the mid $3 range is broken, we could possibly see XRP go into a price discovery mode. We have a resting sell delta at highs of around $3.82, $4.44, and $5.17 as intraday take profit areas where resting sell dark pools are sitting in the market. Now, we always have to be cognizant of the downside. So with that being said, again, just real fast, giving you all a clean update and taking your attention back to the dark pool and delta information. Again, you can see we have a buy dark pool sitting at about $1.90 and $1.56. So if the sentiment were to sour and we were to see intraday risk off mode or any type of liquidation events like the Bank of Japan hiking interest rates leading to unwinding of yen carry trades, we were to see a yen intervention, we were to see President Trump lose the tariff battle with Congress that he's going through right now, stemming to market uncertainty, or anything that dampens the current market sentiment, leading to a risk-off outflow and inflow into safe haven, then those are going to be our bearish targets on XRP for possible DCA or intraday trading levels for buying opportunities. Again, not financial advice. These are just levels to be mindful of and pay attention to. Mark these off on your charts. With that update in mind, let's head over here. Now you guys have the higher time frame upper targets and lower targets on XRP. Realistic, non-hopium, non-hype. Mark those targets off and pay very close attention. With that being said, let's head over to our November 9th, 2025 report, and let's talk about the current fundamental landscape. So last week, the total cryptocurrency market came under renewed pressure, shedding a significant portion of its gains as macro and political uncertainty weighed on sentiment. The market started the week near 3.7 trillion in total capitalization, but retested its October lows around 3.2 trillion before finding some stability over the weekend. This sharp risk-off continuation last week was largely driven by lingering uncertainties surrounding the ongoing U.S. government shutdown, weaker than expected economic data, and a course of hawkish Federal Reserve speakers voicing inflation concerns. Their comments effectively pushed back on the odds of a December rate cut, sending Treasury yields in the US dollar higher and pressuring risk assets across the board. Now, if you don't know these fundamentals and you're one of those types of retail investors that's always like, why is the market down? What's happening? What's going on? Lock in with the private CYPRX community because we are constantly updating our members on what's happening day to day in the market so that way everybody's on the same page and nobody is confused. That is the type of retail investor you want to be in these new, evolving, and ever-changing markets. However, over the weekend, sentiment improved slightly, with the total cryptocurrency market cap recovering to around 3.49 trillion. It is well above that now, as whispers of possible stimulus measures began circulating, Former President Donald Trump proposed $2,000 per person stimulus package for lower income households that helped ignite some speculative optimism. Meanwhile, modest progress in the Senate toward reopening the government also offered a glimmer of hope. Senate Majority Leader John Thune suggested that a deal is coming together, though he cautioned that nothing was finalized. The potential agreement would extend government funding through January while allocating full year funding to several agencies. However, Democratic support remains uncertain, particularly as debates over Affordable Care Act subsidies continue. Now, I went ahead and I posted a full entire breakdown of the ongoing update surrounding the government shutdown and the possible reopening of the government over on X if you guys want to read thoroughly through this. Continuing with the fundamental report. At the center of this political standoff lies a tug of war over healthcare subsidies. Democrats are pushing to extend enhanced ACA benefits, warning that if subsidies expire, premiums could more than double next year for millions of Americans. Republicans have shown some openness to compromise, but prefer stricter eligibility requirements. Trump, on the other hand, has doubled down on his opposition, calling the current system the worst healthcare for the highest price and urging Republicans to abolish the Senate filibuster to pass bills without Democratic input. Despite these tensions, moderate voices from both parties are still negotiating a temporary funding extension covering key services like veterans programs, food aid, and legislative branches, though any resolution appears fragile at best. From a data perspective, the shutdown continues to weigh heavily on the release of key U.S. economic indicators. The CPI and PPI reports, which were due this week, are now delayed, leaving traders with limited visibility into inflationary trends. As a result, investors will turn to this week's ADP private employment data and the NFIB Small Business Optimism Index, which comes out on Tuesday, for insights into economic health. Both are expected to highlight a cooling labor market and weaker business confidence. I personally will be paying close attention towards any data that comes out outside of what the markets are expecting. You can actually see right now in real time, some of our private members are actively reading this report to start the week off right. Meanwhile, we also have multiple Fed speakers again this week. The Federal Reserve's communication will be closely scrutinized as markets attempt to gauge whether policymakers will maintain a restrictive stance or pivot towards continued easing in December and heading into 2026. Right now, the CME Fed Watch Tool is pricing in a 70% chance of a rate cut in December. If this percentage chance drops closer to 50% this week, we could see it reducing appetite for risky investments. Inversely, if any data or Fed comments increase this percentage probability and heading into 2026, we could see risk sentiment supported. Keep in mind, earnings season is also nearly over, but notable reports from Cisco Systems, Walt Disney, and Applied Materials could still influence broader sentiment, especially for futures and equities traders. Ideally, the rainbow scenario this week for risk assets to recover. Markets would need to see a combination of dovish Fed commentary, cooling inflation, and labor market moderation without triggering recessionary fears. Optimism surrounding the end of the government shutdown, combined with reduced tensions in tariffs and geopolitical conflicts, and profit-taking in safe haven assets such as gold, the yen, and the dollar, which could further support a rebound in risk sentiment. On the inverse side of things, any renewed dollar or yield strength, driven by hawkish Fed rhetoric, hotter than expected data, or any data that sparks fears of a recession, or any escalating geopolitical uncertainties and tariff tensions could extend pressure on risk assets. Additionally, two key developments to monitor this week are updates on any potential yen intervention remarks from Japanese finance officials, which could affect global currency flows, and updates on Trump's ongoing court battle over tariffs, as any surprise decisions could add volatility to markets. As the new week begins, crypto markets are starting with a modest rebound, adding roughly around $80 billion in value from weekend lows. For now, the focus remains squarely on Washington, awaiting signs of a breakthrough in the shutdown negotiations and clues from any data that manages to be released. Until then, patience and precision will be key. And for me, as a long-term investor, I'm seeing discounted valuations across key digital assets that continue to offer opportunity for long-term potential. So, with all of that in mind, you guys now have the fundamental backdrop to be paying attention to. You have both risk on and risk off scenarios to be attentive on. You also have key updated targets that are accurate and not hypey price prediction bullish moonboy crap to steer you guys in the right direction, to set some alerts and some alarms on TradingView this week for any progress on XRP's price or any devaluations or bearish price action that could come into fruition. As always, stay focused out there, stay locked in, make sure that you guys are attempting to become superior traders, superior investors. You're blocking out the noise, you're blocking out the hype, and you're tapping into communities that actually have institutional insights like we do here at CYPRX. As always, if you guys want to tap in with us in the private community, head over to CYPRXtrading.com. We'd love to have you in the Discord. We have Zoom calls all throughout the week, anywhere between 4 to 6 Zoom calls per week. We'd love to see you on them. With that being said, be mindful, be cognizant, be aware, and I'll see you guys in the next video breakdown.